Hello neighbors, it's Brad here at eTrailer, and today we're taking a look at the Brandmotion Wireless Observation System, and this is with DVR. So what does that mean? This is going to be a backup camera that also records, and having a nice 7-inch 1080p screen means that you're going to be able to really see exactly where you're backing up, and also this is a system that you can really add on to later on. There's a lot of different functionality with this screen, and let's kind of go through it. So you have a pairing process. Obviously that's to get your cameras paired up. And I mentioned cameras. This has the backup camera that's going to work directly with systems that are already set up or prepped for a Furrion unit or even a Voyager unit. So if you do have that shark fin antenna, this is a direct plug and play 15-minute kind of application, and you get really nice quality overall. Now we do have a little bit of sound through here, which is nice for backing up and just having some audible, what's going on. A lot of times if someone's yelling at you for directions, it's hard to hear them and makes for a little stressful time, but you can hear them through this, making it a lot easier. Now this has up to 4 cameras that you can put in place, so you can really cover a whole spread. So whether you're driving or just backing up in the campsite, you can really get an idea of what you're doing. And this runs off the running light signal, so if you have your lights on while towing, you're going to have this available going down the road so you can take a look and see if anyone's behind you. Now there's a mirror flip option, so if the camera's backwards and you need to flip that, you can absolutely do that. And selecting the mode feature, you start to realize how many different options there are for displays. So if you have 4 cameras, you can do that. If you want them in a multitude of different ways to really focus on certain ones, you can absolutely do that as well. So a lot of customization in just the camera features there. As we continue on, you can also get your camera set up through here. So you get to do all of this on. So you can shut them on and off individually. Some of them, they'll have a time of if there's motion, whether or not they kick on, and you can adjust all of that on the fly. So really cool here. As we go to the system, we can see you can set the date and time, language, auto dimming feature, which is nice. If you're nighttime driving, it's not always bright, it'll do that for you. A delay time, this is going to be, if nothing's going on, if you're not touching the screen, it'll shut off until you need it, which should be plenty for backing up, and you can always adjust that as necessary. So let's go back to the system. It does have a back feature if you just let it time out. The parking light, I put our parking line in place, and that's going to give you that grid. You can turn that off if you truly want to, and then you have your default settings. So pretty simple here. Going to play and record, this is going to fall in if you put your SD card in, and this can support quite a bit of actual storage here. You can have up to 128 gigabytes on an SD card. Now that's not included, but you can add that in. There's a slot that just goes into, I believe it's on this side. And what that means is as you record things, you can have that ready to go, whether it's be a dangerous driver and you need some liability to back up your claim of what happened, or if something fun or cool happens on your camera, something funny, you can record that, and on this you can actually play it back. So that's really cool. That's something you don't see on a ton of different camera systems. Now, as far as range, here we are in our tow vehicle. Our camera's on the back of not a super large camper, but you have up to 300 foot of range. So really a ton of range. I mean, you're really not gonna have a combo that's gonna be too long to where it's not gonna work. And as far as recording, depending on your SD card, you can record up to 210 hours. So you can let this roll the entire trip. So if all of a sudden you notice something on your camper, maybe some damage that happened along the road, and you go, how did this happen? If you're recording the whole time, you could go back and look. Now, as far as lag, this is really quick. You really don't have a ton, so it comes in at 25 ms, so overall really impressive. Some of the other camera systems out there are good for a snapshot, but as you're moving or backing up, real time is not exactly there, and so it makes it a little bit more frustrating, whereas this one is pretty dang quick. Now, we've covered, the main monitor unit. Really, there's nothing else on here except for your cam button. This is going to allow you to select individual ones. So we don't have the other 3 cameras set up, but if you did, you could cycle through all of those and get an idea of what's going on. You can, again, split the screen through this button as well, so you don't have to go through that display. It's a little bit quicker to just select through those cameras. your plus and minus, that's going to be brightness that we have. So again, depends on if you're driving at day or night, you really need to see it. Or, you know, if it's dark outside and you don't want this illuminating the whole inside, you can absolutely do that. And then we have our power button. So really cool system, comes with 2 different ways to mount. We'll cover that a little bit later and I'll show you those, but everything's plug and play. They give you more than enough connectors to make sure that this is going to work for your application. Ours was a factory prep system, so I'll show you what that looks like, and I'll show you also if you needed to, if you weren't prepped on your camper and you still wanted to get this mounted up, I'll show you that as well. If you are factory prep, you're going to have a shark's fin antenna similar to this, and the bracket that this camera mounts to works directly with that. You can use the old mounting spots, and this allows true just mount up, plug and play. We were already prepped, so we had a plug that we could plug this in. It actually gave us an adapter to work with ours, so made it super easy. The camera is completely adjustable as far as angle up and down, and something else that you'll notice is going to be the LEDs that we have here. That is for night vision. So if you're at the campsite late, backing up, you're still going to be able to see. Same thing for recording, which is really nice. You're not just limited to daytime. Now, what's also cool is ours was plug and play and we had that adapter, but if you aren't factory prepped, not to worry, you can still get this to work just fine by having this plug. There's, I believe, 6 foot of wire here, so plenty of space to run your positive and negative to just your running light signal. And that way you get that 12 volt power and it's going to power up the camera. Now all of that is going to be mounted to this bracket, and this has a hole where you can run your wires through. It comes with screws, so that way you can get this mounted up wherever. So if you're not using this as a backup camera, maybe a doorway camera, you can use this bracket. So you would just simply drill in, run your wires in, get those hooked up, mount up your camera, and you're good to go. Now this has a nice wide angle. It's going to come in with 110 degrees, so that really, from our screen, covers the entire width of our camper and then some, so really nice for backing up and being able to see everything around you. And as far as adjustability up and down, you get 80 degrees, so if you wanted a straight shot to see exactly how far you need to back up to a wall, or if you really want to see what's way out there, you can absolutely do that. It's solid enough to where it takes a little bit of force to get this to drop, but it feels really good. And that's something that I've found through this entire kit. Everything feels really, really nice. Everything's got a good powder coat finish on it that's going to be exposed. So this is going to hold up. It's also rated for outdoor use. There's a huge range of temperature that this can hold up to. And a lot of those temperatures, I don't think your camera is going to have an issue before multiple other things will happen. So with all that being said, this is going to be a nice durable unit that is meant to be outside. Now, if you're backing into a spot that's really, really tight and you need to see up close or just see some detail, you do actually have a function that allows you to zoom. You just hold the menu button and you see 1x there, and then with the positive button here, the plus, we got 1.5 and 2. Also 3. So if you really need to zoom in on something, you can absolutely do that. Just another cool function that generally you don't see with other cameras. Now to get this installed, it really depends on your application. If you do have a shark's fin style bracket on the back of your camper, this is going to make it super easy because that means that it's already pre-wired. So it really is just kind of a plug and play application. And this is a Lippert product that is on a lot of the OEs, but the cool thing with this camera is the bracket works directly with this. So if you have this already here, this really makes it a very simple installation. Now they also come with some brackets that you can mount up if this wasn't here, as well as the harness to be able to plug this in and run it to power. Most times running off power, you're gonna just go off of the running light circuit, and so that means that your camera's really only gonna work when you have the running lights on, but when you're out on the road, you should have your lights on anyway, just for safety's sake. So with that being said, the first step to get this in place is to remove the factory cover from our bracket. It's just 4 Phillips head screws. Now be careful with these. They are really, really small, and we're gonna reuse these. They do come with other hardware, but these are gonna go directly back into there. So just hold tight with these. And once you have those screws out, there's a notch here. You can just pull that down and this plate will come out. So pulling this out, your plug should be very similar to this. Now it looks like there's like a jack port essentially, and ours is not that. So this is not going to go directly in, but they do give you this jumper cable that's going to be your input on the camera side, and then this 3.5 or this jack style will plug directly in. Before we do that though, we want to get our wires ran through our bracket and mount it up. Grab your bracket and your camera and the 4 really small Phillips head screws that came with your hardware. To mount this on our camera, there is a specific way we need to do that. On the camera, it's very faint, but you can see an N with an arrow up. That should be the top of the camera. So it'll be mounting up like this. And looking at the factory style bracket, these tabs are on the bottom end, and where this little notch is going to be the antenna side. So we'll just slide this over our wires. And then on the back, you'll see the 4 spots where we're going to put our screws. So we'll line this up, and you're going to want a very small Phillips for this. And we'll get these started and tightened down. Now our bracket is mounted up, and what I'm going to do is get our wires attached. Now this should stay pretty well protected in here. They have a gasket on the back, and from the factory this one was siliconed, but just for added protection so things don't get loose long term, I'm just going to take some electrical tape and I'm going to tape up all of our connections. It's going to make it a little bit more watertight, but also keep it from, again, backing out over time. Now, once we get this kind of in place and ready to mount up, we obviously have quite a bit of extra wire. And so if you push back, you should feel that rubber grommet there, and that should be the hole that they put in from the factory. I'm going to try my best to feed this back in to give us as much space. There is a pocket up top for wires to live, but not all of this. So I do need to get us that little bit of extra space, so I'll just push this in. And if you're really struggling, you may have to take off this bracket and just take a look at that hole and enlarge it if you need to. But the main thing is we get all that wiring out so we can get this mounted up. Once you have your wires pushed back, we're just going to place this bracket and align it with those factory holes, and we're going to use these factory screws to get it tightened down. Now make sure your wires aren't in the way of those holes, and we'll get this snugged down. Now be careful with those that you don't over tighten them, because if you continue to go, it'll just round out that plastic mounting and make it not secure. Now something that I was a little bit maybe concerned about was originally this had kind of a cover for this portion. And originally I thought about filling that with an RTV silicone to kind of seal that up, but looking down, the bottom of the bracket is open, so that becomes kind of a vent or a drain for that water that might pool up there. So I'm not too concerned about it, just because it really doesn't have a place to go except for out. It's not going to feed in. So at this point, what we're going to want to do is grab our antenna, and we can thread this on to the antenna jack. And I'm going to point this up for now. And we want to make sure that we have power here. That's something, obviously, if we don't have power and we start to troubleshoot, we're going to run into issues, and we may have to check our connections. In order to do this, what you're going to want to do is get your trailer hooked up to power via your 7-way, make sure all your batteries are turned on, and then on the tow vehicle, put it to the running light signal. And that way we can get power, and then we'll come back, check to see if this light is on, and then we know everything's good on our camera side. So I plugged the 7-way from our trailer into our 4Runner, and I turn the running lights on. I see that we have a red light on the right side there, so that's a good sign that we have power to our camera. So at this point, let's get our screen all set up and get everything working properly. Now to determine exactly where you want the screen mounted up in the tow vehicle or the dash of your RV, you're going to want to figure out what kind of mounting solution you want. And they give you 2 options, which is really nice, and you get options when it comes to powering it. So the first one is going to be a double-sided tape bracket that is going to slide onto it and give it a bunch of adjustability. Now you'll see that there are holes here as well, so if you wanted to drill that in, they include those screws, which is really nice. You have this turn knob, which is going to allow you to rotate all of this and get it in the position you want. On our vehicle today, we're going to be using the suction cup mount. And because they don't tow their trailer all the time, it's nice to be able to take this off and still have plenty of visibility without it in the way. So to get this in place, you'll see that it's got a T-slide. This is just going to go up, and then we tighten down this thumb screw. And then this knob will allow us to rotate and mount that suction cup however we want, and then we'll tighten that, and then there's also a lock that's going to increase that suction. So we'll get that in place, but we also want to make sure that we have our antenna in as well. So we'll just thread this on, and I'll rotate this up. So we'll get this mounted, and then we can attach it to power. And then to get the power ran to it, I did mention there's two different ways. So if you wanted to, you could hardwire this in. If this is strictly just a tow rig and you're totally fine with that screen all the time, I would suggest doing that. And it's just a power and a ground. So you can run this directly to your cigarette style outlet to be able to get that 12-volt power. You can really run it to a lot of different things if you truly want to. We're going to be using just this cigarette style plug. So pretty easy here, just like our camera. Very similar snap-in connection there, and I'll get this plugged in. Once plugged in, we'll put our key in the on position to get accessory power, and our screen instantly connected. That's pretty awesome. Now, if you are needing to get this to sync up with your camera, you'd push the cam button, but ours automatically did it. There's also a button on the bottom of the camera that you can press for that pairing process, but ours worked out really well and really quick. And this is super clear, great angle. It's 1080p, so it looks really fantastic. I may go back and just adjust a little bit so we can get a better view, and that's kind of the cool part too, is you can adjust that camera to a number of different ranges, up and down to really get it exactly where you want. Now I adjusted my camera down and you can see just the corners of our lights, and I like that because you get a reference of where the end of the camper is. So if I was backing up, I could see exactly how far I am away from this ladder. And what's really neat too is, as we're looking at this, there is going to be a built-in mic function. So if you're using this to back up your trailer, you are going to be able to hear it a little bit here. So if someone's saying, look out for that ladder or back up a little bit more, you'll be able to hear them in the vehicle rather than them yelling. But with that all set up, all that's left to do is dial in your settings as far as, really a whole lot of different things. Picture, flipping it if it's backwards, recording, brightness, whatever you want. Put in a memory card if you plan on recording, and then from there, you're going to have your backup camera ready to go. So just make sure when you're out on the road that you have your running lights on so you get that power. And that was a look at installation of the Brandmotion Wireless HD Observation System with a 7-inch DVR screen. This is going to be a great addition with visibility added to your camper, and really is just going to make your towing experience a whole lot better. My name's Brad. Thanks for watching.